The snow was falling softly outside as I placed the last ornament on the Christmas tree. This would be my first Christmas without James, and the emptiness of our family mansion felt overwhelming. My husband of 15 years had passed away 3 months ago, leaving me with memories, a broken heart, and though his family didn't know it yet, full ownership of everything he possessed. Emma, my mother-in-law Barbara's sharp voice cut through my reminiscing. Why are these new ornaments on the tree? Our family's antique decorations should be front and center. I turned to face her, forcing a polite smile. I thought we could mix in some of the ornaments James and I collected over the years. He always loved. James isn't here anymore, she interrupted, her voice cold. It's time things returned to the way they should be. Barbara had moved in 2 weeks after the funeral, claiming she needed to help me manage the house. My sister-in-law, Christine, followed a week later with her husband Tom, both suddenly very concerned about the family property. What they didn't know was that James had seen this coming. They'll try to push you out, he'd warned me during his final days. They never thought you were good enough for me, never accepted that I chose love over their society matches. Promise me you'll be ready. I promise, though at the time I thought he was being paranoid. Now, watching Barbara rearrange the Christmas tree to her liking, I understood his concerns all too well. The doorbell rang, probably the caterers for tomorrow's Christmas Eve dinner. Instead, I found myself face to face with Victoria, James's ex-fiancée from 20 years ago. My stomach dropped. Victoria, Barbara rushed forward, embracing her. I'm so glad you could make it. I stood frozen in the doorway. Make it for what? Christine appeared, smirking. For Christmas Eve dinner, of course. Mother thought it would be nice to have a proper family gathering. Family, the word stung. After 15 years of marriage, they still considered James' ex more family than me. Throughout the evening, I watched as they fawned over Victoria. She'd married well, they reminded me repeatedly. She was on the board of multiple charities. She understood tradition, understood their world in ways I never could. Remember when James was going to propose at the country club? Barbara sighed wistfully. Everything was planned so perfectly before. Well, before things changed. Before he met me, she meant. Before the son of old money fell for a scholarship student who valued love over social status. I excused myself to the kitchen, needing a moment alone. As I leaned against the counter, I heard their voices drifting in from the dining room. Poor James, Victoria's practiced sympathy carried clearly. Trapped in a marriage beneath his station. At least he's at peace now. The house feels wrong with her here, Christine added. All these common decorations, these middle-class touches. Mother, we have to do something. Already planned, dear, Barbara replied softly. The lawyers assure me that without a clear will, the property reverts to the family. We'll have her out by New Year's. I smiled despite myself. James had known exactly what they would do. Make them think they've won, he'd advised. Let them show their true colors. Then when the time is right. The next day, Christmas Eve, dawned bright and cold. Barbara spent the morning directing staff to prepare for the evening's party, while Christine and Victoria pored over old photo albums, loudly reminiscing about James's life before me. I stayed in the background, watching as more family friends arrived. Each new guest brought another pointed reminder that I didn't belong in their world. Around sunset, as the party was in full swing, Barbara clinked her glass for attention. Friends, family, she began, her voice carrying through the grand hall. This past year has been difficult for all of us. Losing James, she paused for effect, has left a void that can never be filled. But tonight, we begin the process of healing, of restoring things to their proper order. My heart pounded. This was it. Emma, she turned to me, her smile sharp as a knife. You've been accommodating during these past months, but now it's time for honesty. This house, this legacy, belongs to the Carter family. Surely you understand that you can't stay here. The room fell silent. Dozens of eyes turned to me, some pitying, most triumphant. Christine stepped forward, holding out an envelope. We've arranged for a modest apartment in town. Given your background, it should be more than adequate. I took the envelope without opening it. You need to leave tonight, Barbara continued. We've already had your things packed. Sure enough, I noticed several suitcases by the door. They'd planned this humiliation perfectly, throwing me out on Christmas Eve, in front of everyone who'd ever doubted my place in James's life. Now? I asked quietly. It's snowing outside. This is our situation now. Christine's composure finally cracked. You never belonged here anyway. Victoria placed a comforting hand on Barbara's shoulder. It's for the best, really. James would have wanted the house restored to its proper family. I looked around the room, at the tree James and I had decorated together every year, at the photographs they'd already started taking down, at the life we built that they were so eager to erase. Very well, I said calmly, picking up my coat. I'll go. Finally, she shows sense, Barbara announced to the room. Don't worry about the legal details, dear. Our lawyers will be in touch after the holidays. I paused at the door, turning back one last time. Merry Christmas, I said softly. I'll see you all very soon. Their laughter followed me out into the snow. What they didn't know, what James had arranged so carefully before his death, was about to change everything. As I drove through the snowy streets to the 5-star hotel where I'd already reserved the presidential suite, I made 2 calls. First, to Marcus Chen, James's personal lawyer for the past decade. They did it, I told him, exactly as James predicted. On Christmas Eve, Marcus sounded disgusted. Perfect timing, actually. I'll file first thing on the 26th. The video cameras caught everything. Every word, I confirmed. The security system James had installed last year had worked perfectly. The second call was to Detective Sarah Martinez. You got the evidence? She asked without preamble. Everything. Barbara's embezzlement from the family foundation, Christine's insurance fraud, all of it. James' records were very thorough. We'll move on the 26th, she promised. Merry Christmas, Emma. I ended the call as I pulled into the hotel's heated garage. A valet rushed forward to help with my bags. The real ones, packed with everything truly important, not the decoy suitcases they'd so thoughtfully prepared. In my suite, I opened my laptop to review the final pieces of James's plan. He'd spent his last months preparing for exactly this scenario, documenting every illegal transaction his family had hidden over the years, every scheme they'd used to maintain their prestigious image. They'll think they've won, he'd said. That's when they'll be most vulnerable, most likely to celebrate their victory by accessing the foundation's accounts, most likely to let their guard down. I smiled, remembering his determination even as his health failed. He'd known his family would try to erase me from his life, just as they tried to prevent our marriage years ago. What they didn't know was that James had quietly transferred everything to my name months before his death. The house, the business interests, the family foundation, all of it legally mine, all of it properly documented and witnessed. He'd also left me something else. Proof of years of financial misconduct by his beloved family, Barbara's systematic embezzlement from the family's charitable foundation, Christine's elaborate insurance scams. All of it carefully archived, ready to be revealed at the right moment. My phone buzzed with messages from their celebrations. Finally got rid of the gold digger. The house can be restored to its former glory. James would be so happy to see things put right. I screenshot each message, adding them to our evidence file. Let them celebrate. In 1 week, their world would come crashing down. As snow continued to fall outside my luxury suite, I raised a glass of James's favorite whiskey. Merry Christmas, my love, I whispered. The show was about to begin. The week between Christmas and New Year's passed in a blur of careful preparation. While Barbara and her cohorts celebrated their victory at my expense, I worked with Marcus to set everything in motion. On December 26, just as planned, 2 things happened simultaneously. First, Marcus filed the official documentation of my ownership, complete with video evidence of their Christmas Eve performance. Second, Detective Martinez moved on the financial crimes evidence, freezing the foundation's accounts just as Barbara attempted to transfer a large year-end bonus to herself. My phone rang early on December 30th. It was Christine, her voice missing its usual condescension. There must be some mistake, she began without preamble. The foundation's accounts are frozen. Mother can't access anything. No mistake, I replied calmly. Just karma. What did you do? She hissed. Me? Nothing. Your mother's creative accounting finally caught up with her. Oh, and Christine, those insurance claims you filed last year, investigators are very interested in those too. She hung up. Minutes later, Barbara called. You spiteful little witch, she spat. How dare you cause trouble with the foundation? Do you know who we are? I know exactly who you are, I answered. James knew too. Why do you think he spent his last months documenting everything? Silence. Then, what do you want? Want? Nothing. I already have everything. The house, the foundation, the business interests. James transferred them all to me months ago. Legally, properly, irrevocably. I could hear her struggling to breathe. You're lying. Check with your lawyers, though I should warn you. They might be busy today. Fraud investigations take up so much time. The next morning, I walked into the mansion, my mansion, with Marcus and a security team. Barbara, Christine, and Tom were waiting, along with their lawyer. This is our family home. Barbara stood in the grand foyer, arms crossed. You have no right. Marcus stepped forward, documents in hand. Mrs. Carter has every right. Full ownership was transferred to her by your son on June 15th, with multiple witnesses present. James would never. Christine protested. Actually, I interrupted. It was his idea. He knew exactly what you'd do after he was gone. The only surprise was how quickly you showed your true colors. Their lawyer reviewed the documents, his face growing progressively paler. These are completely in order. Mrs. Carter owns everything. Not everything, Barbara snapped. The foundation is under investigation, Detective Martinez announced, walking in with several officers, along with certain insurance claims that don't quite add up. I watched as realization dawned on their faces. James hadn't just protected me, he gathered evidence of their crimes for years. Mrs. Barbara Carter, Martinez continued, we have a warrant for your arrest on charges of embezzlement and fraud. This is ridiculous. Barbara looked around wildly. Victoria, call Vincent. She meant Victoria's husband, a prominent judge. Victoria's not coming, I smiled. She's rather busy with her own legal troubles. Something about tax evasion. As the officers led Barbara away, Christine turned to me, tears streaming down her face. Please, she begged, you can't do this. We'll be ruined. Like you tried to ruin me? I asked quietly, throwing me out in the snow on Christmas Eve, packing my bags with old clothes while I wasn't looking. We were grieving. Tom protested. No, I corrected him, you were gloating. There's a difference. The security cameras caught everything. Every cruel word, every smirking celebration. Over the next few hours, I watched as they packed their real belongings, under supervision of course. The proud Carter family reduced to loading their designer luggage into hired cars. As they prepared to leave, Barbara turned back one last time. He was my son, she said brokenly. Yes, I agreed. And he spent his final months making sure you couldn't hurt me like you hurt him when he chose love over social status. After they left, I walked through the house, my house, remembering James's words during those final planning sessions. They never forgave me for choosing you, Kate said. Let them think they've won at first, then show them exactly why I fell in love with you, your strength, your intelligence, your ability to rise above their petty cruelty. The next few months brought waves of change. Barbara and Christine faced criminal charges. The society pages buzzed with scandal. Former friends scrambled to distance themselves. But something unexpected happened too. The foundation, under my leadership, actually began helping people instead of funding vanity projects. The business interests thrived without the burden of supporting Barbara's extravagant lifestyle. 1 year after that snowy Christmas Eve, I hosted a different kind of holiday party. The mansion was filled with people who worked for the foundation, beneficiaries of its programs, and friends who'd stood by me. The Christmas tree sparkled with a mix of antique ornaments and newer ones, each representing a memory or a hope for the future. James would have loved it. My phone buzzed with a news alert. Barbara and Christine had taken plea deals. They would avoid jail time but had to pay substantial fines and perform community service. Their society friends had already closed ranks against them. Later that evening, as the party wound down, I found a quiet moment in James's study. His photograph smiled down at me from above the fireplace. You were right, I told him softly, about everything. The next morning, I received an unexpected letter. It was from Victoria. I was wrong about you, she wrote. James chose better than any of us knew. The Foundation's new programs are actually making a difference. If you're willing, I'd like to help. I thought about it for a long time before replying. The adult literacy program needs volunteers. Tuesday evenings, don't be late. 2 years after being thrown out into the snow, I stood in the mansion's grand hall, watching as another Christmas tree was decorated. But this time, The ornaments told a different story of redemption, of justice, of turning pain into purpose. Barbara and Christine had moved to a small town in another state, their society connections and prestigious names now worthless. Tom had divorced Christine and remarried. Victoria, surprisingly, had become one of the foundation's most dedicated volunteers. The mansion that they tried to take from me had become a place of real charity and genuine warmth. The fortune they'd abused was now serving the community. The name they'd been so proud of now stood for something truly worthwhile. My phone buzzed with a message from Marcus. The last appeal was denied. It's really over. I smiled, touching the wedding ring I still wore. They never understood, did they, James? I whispered. You didn't just leave me your possessions. You left me your strength, your integrity, and the power to make things right. The snow was falling outside, just like that Christmas Eve 2 years ago. But this time, instead of being forced out into the cold, I was exactly where I belonged, carrying on James's true legacy, not the superficial one his family had clung to. They thought throwing me out of the house was their victory. Instead, it had been the beginning of their downfall and my greatest triumph. As I watched the snow fall, I remembered something James had told me near the end. The best revenge isn't just proving them wrong, love. It's using their cruelty as a stepping stone to create something better than they could have imagined. Looking around at what his home, our home, had become, I knew we'd done exactly that. And somewhere, I was sure, James was smiling.